So in this video, I'm going to be doing a comparison between the Lumix 12-35 version 2 against the Sigma Art 18-35 with the Metabones Ultra Speedbooster. The reason why I'm doing this video in the first place is because when I first bought the GH5, I naturally picked up the Lumix 12-35 lens just because I always like to get like the native lens with the camera because I feel like you get the full functionality that way. So anyway, I've been using that for like a couple months now, and I've just been hearing so much about the Sigma Art, and I almost felt like I'm missing out. So I wanted to pick one up. But before that, I was just checking out videos, and I just couldn't really find any good comparison videos between the Lumix lens and the Sigma Art, so I decided to just do it myself. So first and foremost, I am using the Metabones Ultra Speedbooster. This is actually the newer one that came out. It's actually made for APS-C lenses, which the Sigma Art 18-35 actually is an APS-C lens. So this is the correct speed booster to use with this lens. And I was really worried about it because I had heard so many issues about vignetting or freezing. But I'm telling you, I put this lens on the speed booster, put it into the camera, and everything just worked perfectly. So it's been awesome. First thing I want to talk about when comparing these two lenses is the portability factor. As you can see here, the Lumix is like actually half the size of the Sigma Art. Like, it's crazy. It's also like way lighter. This is like a very, very heavy lens. It actually surprised me as to how heavy it was. So there's really just no doubt in my mind that the Lumix lens is going to be a lot more portable. It's super light, super small. So for portability, the Lumix is going to win. The next area I want to talk about is focusing, and the Lumix lens is actually focus by wire system, which is not preferred by most video professionals, including myself. It really sucks to do manual focus with, as opposed to the Sigma Art, which has the manual focus ring, and it is just so smooth, so buttery, so easy to nail the focus every single time. With that being said, this lens definitely has better autofocus, so you're going to kind of trade focus by wire for autofocus. So depending on your needs, the focusing in the Lumix lens might be better for you. However, for me, as someone who's primarily using this system for video, the Sigma Art is going to win in focusing. Next up, we have range. The Lumix lens is a 12-35, which is actually a 24-70 equivalent, and this lens starts at f2.8 and goes all the way up to f22. The Sigma Art, on the other hand, is technically an 18-35, but after doing the math with the Metabones Ultra Speedbooster, it actually comes out to somewhere around 25 millimeters to 50 millimeters. It's not exactly those, but it's pretty close. And this lens actually goes all the way down to 1.2, which is absolutely crazy. To my surprise, it only goes up to f11. Like everything in this review, depending on your needs, the Sigma Art might be better because, quite frankly, I would rather be able to stop all the way down to f1.2 if it means giving up those ranges from f12 to f22. So, you know, it really depends on what you're looking for. So if you're looking to get that full range all the way to f22, then the Lumix is your lens. But on the other hand, if you want to have a lens that can go all the way down to 1.2 for low light conditions and everything else that's beautiful at f-stop 1.2, then the Sigma Art is your lens. The next thing I want to talk about is the sharpness of both of these lenses, which in my opinion, if you're buying a lens, the sharpness is the most important factor there is. So I ran a couple tests, and keep in mind these tests were done with the exact same settings on the camera. Once again, I used the GH5. Around 24 millimeters, the two side-by-side images look pretty similar. As you can see, there is no vignetting with either lens, which is amazing. But as you get a little bit closer, you can really see that the Sigma Art is just a good amount sharper. I'm kind of looking at this bark, right at this like Y kind of thing, and it's very clear to me that it's sharper. It's also got better contrast and colors in my opinion, and we can really see that in the next image. So next up, I tested it at 50 millimeters. For this test off the bat, in my opinion, the Sigma Art just has better colors. This test is at somewhere around 50 millimeters. And as we get closer and we look at that white speck there, you can really see how much sharper it is on the Sigma Art lens. Keep in mind that these tests were all done at f-stop 2.8. The Sigma can, like I said before, go all the way down to 1.2. So if you think that this is sharp, this thing can get so much sharper, which is just crazy. So in my opinion, and probably the unanimous opinion, the Sigma Art just dominates when it comes to sharpness. For the next test, I did handheld stabilization. The Lumix lens actually has stabilization both on the lens, and it can obviously take advantage of the GH5's in-body stabilization, which is incredible. So as you can see from these tests, the Lumix is definitely the more stable of the lens. However, I actually was really impressed with what the Sigma Art was able to do. I tried my best to do these equally, but it's really hard, especially considering how heavy the Sigma Art is. The GH5's in-body stabilization is pretty incredible, but nonetheless, considering how light the Lumix is and the fact that it has two sources of stabilization, in the category of stabilization, the Lumix is definitely the clear-cut winner. But like I said, I was pleasantly surprised with what the Sigma Art was able to do in these circumstances. The next thing I want to talk about is something that I was not expecting at all when I received the Sigma Art lens, but I was pleasantly surprised, and I have to say it is one feature that I am just so excited about, and that is that this lens, the Sigma Art, has internal zooming. So that means that when you zoom, see I'm zooming right now, and the physical characteristic of the lens is not changing, nor is the weight distribution. And what this means is that if you want to balance this for a stabilizer such as the Zhiyun Crane or the Ronin, all you have to do is balance it once and you can still zoom. So you can essentially mount a 24 millimeter lens, a 35 millimeter lens, and a 55 millimeter lens all in one shot and just switch them back and forth without having to think about anything, as opposed to the Lumix lens, which when you zoom, the characteristic changes. See how that pops out? So if you were to balance it at, say, 24 millimeters, and then you wanted to do something at 70 millimeters, now it's going to be a little too front heavy and you're going to have to rebalance it. So I just thought that was a really cool feature, something that I was not expecting, but something that is just so awesome about the Sigma Art. In conclusion, both of these are great lenses. You really can't go wrong with what you choose, or you could be like me and just get both. But if you have to pick one, I would say that the Sigma Art with the Ultra Speedbooster is my choice. However, if you are someone that is going to be using this lens to take pictures and you're going to want something that's on the fly, run and gun, super handheld, then the Lumix is a great choice for you. It's also considerably cheaper, almost half the price. That's my comparison. Thanks for watching.